so here's a few things about using these. First, like any other firearm, use eye protection when you're shooting one of them. Second, the same procedure you follow when you're shooting a bow, you need to inspect your bolts after every shot. So check them, make sure there's nothing cracked. These things are very accurate, so you can group them and smack arrows together just like you could anything else. So inspect them, make sure there's no cracks. Clear. Again, I'm on a range, so I have to follow the rest of the range safety rules. That's why I yell clear when it's time for everyone to go out there and get their arrows. Now, what happens is, you got to check them, like I said, make sure there's nothing wrong with them, but also check the nocks. Remember, all that pressure, now in this case, these bows are over 200 pounds. You're shooting regular compound bows anywhere from 40 to 60, 70, even 80 pounds, but this is 200. So there's a lot more force going in there. You have to check your nocks. So PSE uses a half moon knock for this particular bow. Check them, make sure they're not cracked or anything like that, because say if a knock is cracked, bring it back, it'll still probably engage the anti-dry fire and allow it to fire. But when it goes off and all that pressure goes up, that bolt could explode just like any arrow would explode when it's compromised. So you want to make sure that you inspect everything. The other thing that people forget to inspect is your cocking rope, okay? Well, people tell me, like, why do I have to inspect that all the time? Well, like, this is a brand new one, okay? But if you've been using it for a while, it could fray. Anything could happen. So the last thing you want is while you're cocking it is to get almost 3/4 of the way or all the way back and to have the rope snap. So you always inspect where these things come out, okay? Like here, make sure the knot's in good shape. Look at the line, make sure the line's in good shape. Because what'll happen is if you try drawing this thing back and you pull and it breaks, say when you're at 3/4, it's the same effect as dry firing a bow. Remember, there's no arrow loaded in there, so there's nothing to absorb the impact, and you can blow up your wheels, you can blow up anything, the limbs on these things. And if that happens to you, you have to have the bow checked out. Don't try to inspect it on your own, anything like that. If you're familiar with working with crossbows, okay. But for the most part, if you're inexperienced with it, or you're just unsure, take it back to the shop where you got the bow from. Have them look at it and make sure that it is safe. So again, these are things that you really don't hear too much about, inspecting your arrows, inspecting your cocking rope, anything like that. Especially if you're gonna use one of these crankers that goes mounted on here, in the case of a PSC, or sometimes they go in the back, and allows you to crank the bow instead of having to use your back to draw it. Those two, the same way, you gotta inspect their cocking ropes to make sure there's nothing wrong with them. And even these, okay, so these are the plastic hooks that you'll see that they hook onto the string. Inspect them, make sure they're not cracked, because this is another failure point that you want to be aware of. Now, most of these things are designed to take 10 times the weight that you're pulling, but again, if they become damaged or something like that, I've seen one of these things break because it got caught in the car door when someone was slamming the door. It cracked, they pulled up, and in the middle of drawing it, luckily they didn't get too far and drawing it back, and just snapped right off. The guy almost threw his back out because he went back so far. Nothing was really hurt. He wasn't hurt, fortunately. But that's the kind of things that we're trying to avoid. So, more to come.